Hi, this is Pepper. Oh, here we are, finally. All the anticipation, and here we are together. So, first of all, welcome. It means a lot to me to have created a simple event and have had so much outpouring of love come my way in this short amount of time. Thank you for all the emails I've received, the warm welcome, the sweet memories that have come my way. All of it is very touching and meaningful to me. So wherever you are in the world, wherever you happen to be joining from, and whatever time it happens to be where you are, thank you for being here live if you are. And if you're going to be seeing this video again, I just want to say that it will be available again later. You can view it again. You can share it with your friends. And I will also be able to share it on a newsletter coming up as well. So one of the questions that I received several times this week was, out of all the different ways that we have of sharing wisdom, now why I chose Facebook for this chat. And, you know, quite simply, it's here. It was easy. It had a simple learning curve, and so that's what I chose to do this time. And I'm aware that, especially these days, we have issues with privacy. I do too. We have issues with how much information is shared and where it's going and who's collecting it. And so there are movements away from platforms like Facebook and Instagram and others as well. I'm aware of that. I probably feel very similar to you if that's your concern. And so I am looking for other ways that will give us more privacy in terms of sharing information and teachings. So if you are not a Facebook user or someone who doesn't participate in it, I will make this video available in different ways. But be aware that these are the times that we live in. If I put it on YouTube, Google owns YouTube, and so that has its own other aspects to it. So these are interesting times that we are living in for sure, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a little while first. So I want to start maybe with some good news. Maybe all of it will be good news. So there's a new website that is being created for me. I'm creating it. It's getting help with that. And it will be available probably in just a little bit less than a month, maybe. And it will contain because they've all been preserved. So all of the Gaia teachings, all of the seminar series, the Gaia's Voice series, the original Mastering Planet Earth series, and maybe a few others in there as well. So all of those have been preserved, and they will be uploaded onto the new website, and they will be available free for download. Just seems time to do that. So it will probably be under the heading Gaia Library or something like that, and I'll be letting you know more about that as we get closer to that release date as well. So anything that you've missed, if there's seminars that you missed or subjects that you missed, or favorite things that you would like to revisit, they will all be there. And I'm really happy about that as well. But anyway, more about that later. But I wanted to start out with some good news for you. And now, for the sake of our time together here, I want to spend a little time looking at the past, because you've been away. Oh yeah, I've been away. And a little time with the present and with the future that I think that we are all concerned about, maybe interested in for sure, concerned about a little bit, the present, the future, and this world that we're living in that turned out or is a little bit confused, a little bit chaotic, a little bit disheveled right now, and could certainly use our help, maybe. So I want to spend some time with that today as well, talking about the future and maybe the future of our shared community, if we choose to continue to do things like what we're doing today. So let me go back just a little bit to recap for you where I've been and catch us up to the present moment. So for the years that I was busily channeling Gaia and loving that, and I did, it was wonderful, expansive, deepening, and all the things that I think all of us felt during that time. As the years went on, and my calendar then was scheduled out about 18 months, and commitments, and deadlines for articles or interviews or different things that were going on, chapter deadlines, articles, material for future seminars, I began to feel a little overwhelmed. And especially with the travel, you know, traveling to so many different cities and countries at the time, and hotel rooms, time differences, it began to take its toll on me a little bit. And I really was beginning to think about taking a little time off for rest and recovery. My body wanted the time off, and it just felt like it. You know, the very thing that was a gift for so long, and it is, channeling is definitely a gift. It has, when channeling is at its best, it has a presence that is unique, as you know. It's fresh, it's original, it's in the moment, and it has all of those qualities that just emerge out of nothing, out of space, really. And I knew that and felt that and loved engaging that way. But I was noticing that my body took a little bit more time to get into that space, that uniqueness that you have seen me do. And it took a little longer to get out of it comfortably and to get a little bit of adequate rest. And it was getting harder to kind of catch up on that cycle. So I was already wanting to take a little bit of a break when, as I've already mentioned before, my parents became ill and really needed someone to be with them and help. So I took that time off as well, and I took that time off then to regenerate myself, to regenerate my body, to get strong again, and to participate in life in some ways, in some of the things that I felt that I had missed along the way. And it was a good decision, and it was an important decision, but it came with several different, its own ramifications and challenges as well. But when I was away, for the most part, I was alone. I took time to eat simply. I worked hard physically. It's almost like everything that didn't come through me in a different way came through my body. And so I had a pick and an axe, and I was digging in the ground to re-landscape in some really heavy-duty stuff. And I was moving rocks. They were probably way too big for me, but somehow I had the energy to do it at that time. I took long and invigorating hikes, and I walked most of the time. I lived in Ashland, so I lived high on a hill and walked about, I don't know, a half a mile to town and back every day, just about, and really took care of myself in a different way. So I'm skipping over here a few hurdles and challenges that came up during that time, because you don't really just move from one, we'll call it a consciousness, to another without encountering some things. So I did, and that was interesting as well. And that will come up in other talks that we have as well. I really want to stay a little bit more focused today. So during some of that time, in order to remain true to myself and true to my inner nature, I still needed to remain a spiritual being, which we always are in some ways. So at the time, my way then, and still is, to have a meditation practice, to have a contemplation practice and a meditation practice. And my meditation practice mostly took place at a Tibetan Buddhist temple center in Ashland. And there are two very wonderful and wise female Western lamas there. They are the teachers there. They are the resident teachers, and they became and still are my teachers. And during that time, it was wonderful for a while to be a student and not a teacher, to be able to be only in a learning mode and an experiential mode, and to begin to really empty myself of anything that I had filled myself with. And I think it's good for all of us to do that at a time. So beliefs, ideas, philosophies, passions, relationships, ideas about life and what it should look like or could look like, and many other things. And sometimes those teachings were simple, and sometimes they brought up things that were not so simple. And it's also really important to us, for us, when those moments come up, to let them have their time. Let those voices speak, let those experiences come out. And so for a time, that is what I did as well. Now, along those lines, and in sharing with my Lama teachers, they came to understand who I was and what I did and how I lived, and about some of my unique gifts. And that was really wonderful because they really understood them, but from a different level. So they come from a different tradition and have studied in a different tradition. And one of the things I love about Buddhism is that they acknowledge some of these gifts, what we would call clairvoyance or clairaudience, or all of these abilities that we have, channeling. They acknowledge, but in a different way. They call them all siddhis. So it's siddhi, siddhis. And in this case, siddhis are abilities. They are progressive abilities. They are things that come up as we begin to develop our spiritual awareness. Now, here in the West, we see some of those things as kind of like the be-all, end-all. Isn't it great this person is a channel, a master channel, an expert channel, the channel of this or that, or some other abilities that we've seen people have. And we kind of end the process there and say, wow, we inherited these things, or we got them from a previous life, or a blessing, or a traumatic moment that began it, something like that. And in any case, they are viewed, for the most part, just as a simple act. So to put it kind of humorously but bluntly, it's kind of like, wow, that's great, but what else you got? Can you still your mind? Can you stop your thoughts from jumping around? Can you stop the discursive mind, as it's called? Can you even slow it down? The monkey mind, can you do that? And for the most part, many of us, maybe most of us, can't. Even those of us who consider advanced spiritually, moved in this direction, studied under this teacher or the other teacher, can we slow down or still our mind, our desires? Can we not become angry? Can we bring about peace? Can we look at the world as it is today in a different way? So in essence, by looking at things from this Buddhist stance, whether it's the channeling or anything else that we're doing, it's just something that we pass through a progressive place on our way to a deeper place of realization And we'll leave the word enlightenment and some of those other really charged words alone for now. But we'll use the word realization for now. Can we become self-realized in this world? And that being the point of why we have these cities or gifts. Now, there are some exceptions to that, some things called Maha cities, and there's 84 pretty amazing abilities, including flying and passing through solid objects. And so I think I'll just let that one go for now. So if you are someone who has the 84 Maha cities, well, then you can come back and talk about it. But mine, for instance, are considered progressive, and they're wonderful, but let's move beyond that as well. So in studying with these lamas, in essence, they helped me become aware, as many of us do, that my own ideas had become a little bit fixed. Maybe my idea of what Gaia is, where Gaia is, who or what or how we channel, the significance of that compared to other greater challenges in the world and how we can express that. So I want to be clear here. This is not to make small or little or say Buddhism is better than another teaching. It was just for me, who was in the process of emptying these different ideals that I had so that I could see things differently. This was my choice. So for a while, I chose not to channel and not to use these abilities. And it was a very strange thing to do, a very difficult thing to do, because I have in some ways been doing this since I was a child. So for a while, I felt, almost like in the movies where you show someone has these abilities and all of a sudden they're mere mortals and they don't know what to do or how to function in the world. And so that's a little bit how I was for a while. I had no idea how to function. I had no idea how to view the world or someone without letting some kind of a super normal empathy look into that being to see, well, what is going on, and can I help that or can I shift that? And so I shut everything down for a little while. And it was uncomfortable. It was difficult. It was everything that you would imagine it to be. And just like as if you lost maybe your sight or your hearing, and you knew that one day you would regain it, but right now it was gone, just gone. The door was closed. Now, I could say that everything was gone, but just as we know and just as you've heard, one door closes and another one opens. So these abilities that I had clung to in some ways, these were my abilities, my unique ability to make my way in the world, set aside, that emptying feeling began to free me. So I began to feel, after a short time, free from the past, free from conditioning, free from obligation, free from something that I felt like, even though it was a gift, it was something that I had to do or had to express in order to make my way in the world. And once I felt that freedom is exactly what it sounds like. Freedom is freedom. Freedom is a deep breath. Freedom is a sigh that releases everything. Freedom is a new way to see something. Freedom is the next horizon. It's not just waking up in the morning to the next day. Freedom is waking up to a new day. And after a while, that's what I began to feel. As I began to feel freedom, I began to express it and want to investigate it that much more. So again, with the help of these teachings and other ancient teachings that I was studying, because I was not idle. So I took up the studies of ancient Egypt and the studies of the Gnostic tradition, the Rosicrucian traditions, the ancient esoteric mystical Christianity, some ideas of Islam as well, and everything else that I could find on where I felt that the wisdom had either been hidden or ignored or misrepresented or set aside in favor of more popular truths at the time. So I became a true student of life again. And again, over time, my eyes opened in a different way. My heart reopened in a different way. A new depth of empathy and compassion for our human condition, for the earth, for how we live upon the earth. Just for the human condition, I think, is the best way to put it. And I began to see things again in a different way, in a way that's not exactly clairvoyance. And I'm going to call it visioning for now, and I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But there's reasons why I've begun to change my terminology. I've changed some of the techniques that I use now. I have enhanced others, and it has made a very large difference because our world is changing very quickly now. And in some ways, I really feel like we have no choice but to change with it, and as quickly as possible as well. So while we can depend upon our fundamental values or truths or the things that make us unique, it's very important for us to look now to new avenues of expression, to new doors and windows that are opening, to new truths, and to really be able to see those and engage with them. And I think that the reasons why to do all this are pretty obvious given some of the things that we see in the world as well. Okay, so in viewing these things, in Zen, we say that there is beginner's mind. So beginner's mind is not seeing things for the first time, but it is seeing things in their own original way. It's allowing them to present themselves to you as they are, without added assumptions, without preconditions, without post-conditions. And when we see things that way, beginner's mind allows us to become renewed as well. There's an old saying in the Zen tradition. If you, it goes something like, let me see, I think I might have even written it down. In beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are a few. So we go with everything that we're sure and that we know about. Good, we have a nice set, a nice toolbox to work with. We go with beginner's mind, and we have a world of possibilities that's open to us. So that is the premise that I began with again. So maybe to recap a little bit, I did not set Gaia aside, and Gaia did not cast me off as the Gaia channel. However, there was a time in which deeper investigation was necessary and even vital to my health, we could say. If it's my health and we're so aligned, then it's also the health of the planet, Gaia's health as well. So it was to all the benefit that this took place. So then, in order to have this investigation, what moves through all things, all wisdoms, all teachings across all traditions, ancient or modern, is a force of nature that we could call Anima Mundi. And I think Plato a long time ago is maybe the one that used that word. The Stoics used that a long time ago. It's a well-known word in Stoicism, which I will talk about some months from now in the future as well, in terms of religions. But Anima Mundi is really the vital force of the universe. There's some people that call it the world soul. It is the fabric of life that animates all things. So Anima Mundi, this force of nature, is not Gaia, but it's not Gaia. Anima Mundi is not the physical planet, but it's the energy that animates all of life on, within, or that is the planet. So it's not the planet, and it isn't the planet. And yet it's this force, this vital force of nature. Without that force, none of us would be here. The world would perish, we would perish. This is our animating force. You could call it the God within, and we could go on for a long time talking about that as well. So this vital force, this Anima Mundi, is what I felt and still do. And I want to be careful here because I don't want to give the misperception that allows people to say, oh, Pepper was channeling Gaia, and now she's channeling Anima Mundi. However, this force, this very great force that moves through us, is what allows us, and I've been hinting at this in some of the Facebook posts, in the newsletters that I've been sending out, and the people that I have talked to, that this force is embodied by us and can be accelerated by us. So somatic learning that you've heard me talk about, evidence-based spirituality, we feel it, we bring it up, we act upon it. Lived traditions, living systems, living spirituality. This is what I'm trying to get at, in the direction that easily opened for me just by allowing it to, really. So moving into these living energies, this is what we need and what the planet needs most of all now. We could look at the planet and say that it is sick and that it's ill. And we could look at it and say that it is simply renewing itself. And we could look at humanity and say that humanity is ill, and that our genetic structure as well is transforming. So some of these things that are taking place now, we are going to look at today and talk about as well. So I think that brings us pretty close up to the near present anyway. That gives you an idea of where I've been and what I've been doing and studying. I have, during this time, communicated with some of you. I've always been available by email. I've been here. I've put out different messages here and there. I have written for a few publications along the way. And I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do next, but maybe around the end of last year, and maybe based on some of the things that we see in the world now and this great force of energy that I've been feeling, it seemed appropriate to share it again. I felt revitalized, re-energized, very healthy, very interested, and very much wanting and missing you all very much. That's the truth. And so coming forward at this time is a way to say we are a community, we are truly needed now. If not us, who? And for those of us who have been studying for many, many years, one tradition and another, and opening ourselves up and working on healing and everything else that we have done, this is what we trained for. This time in the world, this is when we need to be most aware and awake. This is when it really matters. We did not come here to be bystanders. We did not come here to this planet, in this life, study and work. Some of us suffer through confusion and difficult moments and crises that we have all been through in one way or another. We have not been through all that to sit by idly and watch the planet and our governments and our economies and our educational systems simply disintegrate. Now that's on the one hand, I can say that. In the next moment, I'm going to say something almost differently, but you got to listen carefully. So, okay, we're at the present moment now. So let's go on. You know, it's kind of odd sitting here and just talking to my own screen as a practice. I'm much more used to our public events as well, where I see you sitting there and I can see you're getting it, you're not getting it, you're interested, you're not interested, it's time for a break, all those things that intuitive things that I've come to know over the years. So this is going to take a little getting used to. I think we're going to have to find some forms of expression where I can at least see some of you. All right, so here we are in the world, and we know what it looks like and what it feels like now. And so the world is not the planet. The planet, the physical planet, the sentience of the planet, Gaia, Anima Mundi, all of these forces of nature, this is the planet, this is what is always here. For instance, wisdom is always here. You can't kill it, you can't destroy it. It just remakes itself in a variety of different ways. And the same is true of the earth. In some ways, we can talk about that we are hurting the earth, or that the earth is suffering, or that we are destroying its resources, and viewed from a certain standpoint, that's true. However, the earth has, over a millennia, reversed itself, shifted its polarity, had tremendous upheavals that have changed its own resources, made new resources available, created all kinds of different either opportunities for some species and challenges for others. And so we could say that the earth could take care of itself. But at the same time, we have to say, as has been said forever, that what we do to the earth, we do to ourselves. We are made of the same material. We are made of the elements, the 4 elements. We're made of metals in our bodies. We are made of the same wisdom that the earth is made of. And so we have this ability to transform ourselves, our bodies, the earth, and our future. So the planet is fine. But now if I talk about the world is not the planet. We use those terms interchangeably sometimes, but the world is our world. The world is the created world. The world is the world of appearances. It's the things that we see. We see the objects. It's a subjective world. The world is a world of ideas and philosophies and religions and educational systems, governmental systems, economical systems. All of these is the world that has evolved and has created. But it's not the only world that this planet has known. It happens to be the world that we know now. So what happens to a world when it has almost exhausted its possibilities? What happens when we have invented and gone through many different forms of government, many different kinds of education, conservatism, progressivism, anything else that we could think of? This world, what I'm saying is, has nearing its end of usefulness. So you can see that. You can see that in what can be fixed and what can't be fixed. We look at a lot of systems that are out there right now and we say they're broken, that can't be fixed. We can't fix the educational system. We need to create a new system. We need a new generation of people or ideas to tear down one system and create another. Some people say that about the government. Other people say that about our economies, our monetary systems, that these are at the end of their usefulness. Our infrastructures, our roads, our cities are having a hard time. There are not funds to renew them, rejuvenate some of these things. So this world and the creative forces that engage the world and make new appearances are tired. They are fatigued. And this very force of nature that I've been talking about, we'll just still call it Anima Mundi for now, for the sake of this conversation, this force of nature is not coursing through the veins of these systems because they are aged as far as the world is concerned, and there's just not that much energy flowing into them. So when that happens, it's almost like there is a cosmic crack in the world. There's a crack not in the earth, but in the world, so that there can be then the impetus for a new world of ideas. This, in some ways, is what the Mayans were talking about. And if you read into other traditions, you would read that other civilizations as well have predicted this about their own times and about newer times. The ancient Egyptians predicted it about themselves, and knowing that their wisdom would then flow to Greece, and that Greece would then make it rational and reasonable, and they knew that some of these mysteries would go underground for a while, but they also knew that they would remain there in the hieroglyphs, in the papyrus, in so many other traditions that are still there. But they also knew that this great flow would move elsewhere in the world as it does, and that it will recreate itself time and time again. So this is the time that we're in right now. And because I see this so clearly and so much want to share it with you, these are the reasons why I decided that I wanted to be with you in our community and to hopefully together create and recreate and assist what we can, where we can, each one in our own areas of expertise, each one with our own gifts and abilities and beliefs. Earlier, I said that we are one-hearted. I rarely say that we are of one mind, because we can see now in the world right now how divided everything really seems to be. And this is going to continue, because this is that crack in that cosmic egg. That is its purpose right now, is to separate. If it separates, it does not mean unjoin. It just means separate ideas so that new ones can come forward. It's not going to be a time of just fix it. It's a different time right now. So this is where we are right now. There's this separation of the worlds. Now, another reason why I said earlier, and I was going to talk about visioning some more, why that's so important right now is that using some of these techniques, which not even a stretch, are fairly easy to grasp. We can see not only the worlds separate a little bit, but we can see the process happening, and it gives you a little bit of advance notice of how to move and flow into a newer idea of how a world could work. Is it going to work for everyone? No. There are going to be those of us that cling with everything that we have to the old ways, and even the things that are falling apart, and to the older, whether it's a tradition or a philosophy or a religion or any of the old systems. There will be those that cling with everything that we have, because that is where we think we came from, or that is where what we think can be fixed, or what we thought was right, or what was promised. By using visioning, we can see the new world that we can't quite see yet. I want to keep saying this. We're not looking at a new planet. We are here on the earth. This is our home. This is our life. But we participate in many different planes. We have many different roles that we play. There's many different ways that we engage the world. And so that is what is changing if we want it to, if we allow it to. And if we do, then we can help ourselves, and we can help each other, and we can even help people that have no clue about what we're talking about here. And again, I hope that we choose to do that. So the new world that I see, is it that perfect, idyllic world? No. But it's one that's growing and becoming. It's not one that is slowly disintegrating. So by at least being aware of it now, seeing, watching it develop, helping it develop a little bit, it makes the times that we're in right now a little bit easier to bear. Because it's not an easy time at all. We're really watching the disintegration of many of our systems. And again, we're not bystanders. That doesn't mean we have to become activists. That doesn't mean that we have to be resistors. It simply means that we can become active in the ways that we have been trained or open to being. So that is the world that we are in now. We are in a time of the separating of worlds. If you think about it, the term Vesica Pisces comes to mind. So you think of the two circles intersecting and that almost diamond shape that you see in the center of that Vesica Pisces, the intersection of the two worlds. That is where we are right now. It's a challenging place to be. It's a place in which we can feel pulled in many directions. It's a place where we can easily be pulled down into a kind of a, I could even call it a cosmic sadness. A sadness for the state of things, a sadness for the conditions of the world, for humanity and its loss of resources. And if we don't really allow us to begin to see what's already there, it's too easy to just stay in the parts that don't feel good, don't look good, and are quite uncomfortable. So we can see that our physical bodies are feeling it. Our sleep patterns are feeling it. People that don't even know what we're talking about are feeling it and describing it in the ways that they do. So more than at any other time, awake, aware, compassionate, empathic, and settled into some kind of a spiritual practice if you have it. And that is going to be part of what I'm going to dedicate the new website to. Techniques, meditations, contemplations, everything that we can find that are of assistance at this time. Okay, so that's the present that we're in. And now let me move into the future a little bit as well. The time that we're in, or that I'm going to describe a little bit, I want to stay a little bit with what I can maybe call the near future. You know, sometimes I say 2018 and beyond as well, the seminar that I'll be doing in San Diego. And so I'll just talk just very briefly about just a couple of the subjects that I'll be covering there in much more detail as well. So we look into the near future, and to me the near future, we'll say, is this next year. So yeah, so 2018, and I'll go as far as into the next 50 years, because it's hard to tell how things are going to move right now, just in the scheme of some of these time sequences as well. So I made myself a note here. So here. So I want to start out by talking about 2018 and saying that in some ways I'm going to call it the year of the reversal of cherished assumptions. The reversal of cherished assumptions. So that means pretty much what I've described up until now. this shifting world, this consciousness that doesn't know exactly where it's moving to, what direction it's moving into. So when our cherished assumptions may have been for some the American dream, maybe it's the idea of what our a dream job that we would have, or what retirement would look like, or maybe it's promises that previous generations made to us. Maybe it's the value of life itself and what we thought was going to happen during this lifetime that maybe now seems as if it might not happen, or might turn out to be a completely different way. So this shift in cherished assumptions is a way to say it's not going to work out maybe the way we thought it was going to. I don't in this moment want to put any kind of spin on this at all to say, oh, but it's going to be better than what was promised. I will say that it's going to be different than the assumptions that we had coming in. Maybe we can see that already, but we're at a juncture right now, which is not just a fork in the road. We're more at a juncture where there are many roads and many forks in the road and many perilous journeys along each of these. So it's not like if we take this road, we'll be fine, but if we take the other one, we won't be fine. No matter which ways we choose right now, there are perilous journeys ahead of us. There are also great adventures and discoveries and opportunities that we could not have seen if things in our life just got a little bit better or a little bit more stable. And we can choose a certain amount of stability for sure over chaos and some other things that will be happening as well. But in the meantime, so some of the things to look to right now, we already know that there is economic volatility in the world. So we'll start there just as an overview. There's been a lot of talk lately, a lot of news about cryptocurrencies and different things like that. They're coming and they're going. Cryptocurrencies are here to stay. They will eventually replace all or most of the monetary systems that we have in the world right now. We will become a cashless world or a cashless society. This is not going to happen overnight. You don't have to hurry to do anything. However, the systems that we have now are on their way out, whether it's a paper currency, credit cards. We are tired of credit cards. We're tired of apps on our computers and phones to manage these kinds of things. And these will shift as well into different systems. They're going to morph into several different currencies before we have one that works. So the way that Bitcoin and some of the other cyber currencies work right now, we can call that a trial balloon for now. The way that those are created and who has access to them, it'll be like another bubble. It will come and it will go, but it's a balloon, it's a trial balloon, so it's worth noting. Is it working? Is it not working? How many people are using it? Was it an underground thing? Is it for everyone? Is it an investment? And you can see that the moment that it became somewhat approved, the moment that others became invested in it or collecting it, or the way that governments acknowledged it, that was already, okay, that was done with that. The experiment was already over. So it'll be around for a while longer, and if you have some, it's worth having it. It's worth holding on to. There will be many, many other kinds of cyber currencies based on different kinds of formats. They're all experiments for right now, and they will come and go, but that's the direction that we're moving in. And that will exist side by side with our money systems for now. So if it's hard to picture, if you imagine, if you've ever been to, say, a casino, for instance, you can pay with cash or a credit card or chips. So you have several different things and they all have a value associated with them. So this will be somewhat the same. It'll coexist with these for now. Beyond that, and at a certain time, will come a system that will attempt to make things more fair by having credits and debits. So imagine, just like you have in your bank account, you earn, sorry about that, I got too excited. So you earn money and you get a credit, and you spend money and that's a debit. So imagine that that happens in the same way, but that it is not necessarily based on work. There will be other ways to earn credits or to accumulate debits. So if you live in the US, maybe you have seen that there are changes being proposed and implemented, some that we're aware of, some that are kind of sliding in under the system, that have to do with benefits such as welfare or unemployment benefits or those kind of things. In order to continue to fund those, there will be requests for those who participate in those programs to give back or pay back into the system or the community or however it might be, something, a form of repayment. So in that way, either a debit could be erased or a credit could be earned that would then translate into those benefits. So in the beginning, as with all things, there will only be credits. Think back to when there was the introduction of many, many credit cards before, when we were still using cash or credit card. At the time, there was zero interest, free cards, everything else you can imagine. And then after a while, it wasn't interest-free and it wasn't a free card. Now you had to pay a certain amount for it, and now the interest rates went up. And now if you didn't make your payments exactly on time, the penalties were rather severe. So that's a little bit about how this will work. In the beginning, it will look appealing because, of course, they want to interest people in the new systems. So you have to make them interesting and appealing and easy and catchy and all that. So taking on that, then there will only be credits, and those credits will be able to be used in many ways, perhaps to reduce your taxes or anything else, fines. But then later, that's what we need to be careful for, is what happens when the debits are engaged as well. So like I said, I just want to give you an overview of these things now, because having the overview, when you begin to see little pieces of news come up, you'll say, oh, that's probably related to this. You'll see the seeds be planted, and you'll know if it's a good idea. Maybe you want to participate in it early on. If it's not a good idea, maybe there will be some things that you can do to safeguard some of your own assets or different ways that you participate in the world. So more on that at another time. I want to say a little bit about our healthcare systems, which are also very much changing, or will be changing. These are all things that you can see happening. So it's just a matter of how we react to it, respond to them. So we know that that is another one of the systems that is somewhat broken. It's not going away overnight as well, but there will be other choices to participate as well. And some of these, I'm wanting to call it for right now, and probably this word will change, I'm going to call it functional medicine for right now. And functional being a word that is going to replace what we think of today as alternative medicine, but it's going to be a broader category. So functional medicine being just things, just like the word suggests. Functional means that it works for more people. Functional means more available. Functional means more affordable, more inclusive. So I'll say functional medicine right now. For a little while, you can think alternative, but you'll see that the category itself will become broader over time. And functional medicine will include there will be certain statements that the medical professionals, which will be not, I'm going to say medical professionals because I don't want to say just doctors. The medical professionals who participate in functional medicine will have a slightly different kind of an oath that doctors who are part of medicine as we know it today. So they will be, it'll be functional medicine professionals who, for instance, they might say that they are nutritionally informed. That's a large difference because we can see how we are definitely lacking and not informed. Right now we just have these products, or we have organic products, or we have natural products, and it's very difficult to separate all these. But if we have professionals who are not only medical informed, functional medicine, who are nutritionally informed is one thing, and who advocate for their patients. You'll read some kind of phrase like that into it. And what that will mean is if they advocate for their patients, that means that they're not in the pocket of big pharma, we could say. So the pharmaceutical companies, the agricultural companies may not own them or control them. And so it is a different kind of programs available to us. So that is a good thing. I don't see that it's going to be very long for that one. In essence, it's already here. It's just that it's not really inclusive or side by side. Now, that flies a little bit in conflict into some of the other subjects that have come up where some of the industries want to control our supplements, right? Our supplements, and whether they're allowed or not allowed, or on the shelf, or how it will be. So there will be a shift in that. As they become either not allowed in one kind of program, a whole world of opportunity will open up for this new kind of functional medicine, because these products are not just going to go away. They need to become available in a different way. So there will be other choices in that as well. In some ways, we can even thank the burgeoning marijuana industry for this, because as that becomes more freely able to express itself in the communities, in all the ways in which it does, in the cities and states and countries, as it becomes legalized and expressed in many different ways, so will the other supplements, will all of that move into this functional medicine. So I will leave that subject there for now. I'm reading one of your messages here. Someone likes my Buddha Tanka in the background. Yeah, it's a very special one. This is a kind of an antique one, and that's Chenrezi. It's the death of the Buddha of compassion that's there as well. So I thought that was a good place to broadcast from today. Let's see. I want to talk as well, I have a little bit more time here, just a few more minutes maybe, about our cities, because that's something that comes up quite a bit. So we who have many ways disparaged many of the corporations and how they control the world and have a corner on all the money and make all the rules and so many different things. One of the things that we will have already in process already as well are new cities that are, well, I want to say corporate owned, but it won't come out that way. They will be foundational cities. They will be sponsor cities. So you will have these giant corporations like Google, like Facebook, like Amazon, who are sponsoring cities. So you saw them sponsor, say, stadiums in different cities, and be responsible for other huge things that are taking place, and buying up different markets in order to express things. And so one of the next things that you will see is how new cities are formed. Now, in the past, in years ago, you can imagine, you know, a little tiny settlement, and then it grows a little bit, and then, you know, what was it, that the trains used to stop at the little settlement, so it grew a little bit more and eventually became a city. Well, that's not going to happen right now, and there's no room for that to happen. So you have these big corporations that are going to purchase huge amounts of land, or perhaps small cities that have fallen out of economic good standings with poor infrastructures and things. And you will see that some of these corporations will invest in these cities, or what will seem like it's out in the middle of nowhere, but really won't be. And there will be new cities that come about. Why? Because they will make interesting commitments and promises to the people that may want to come there. Maybe there won't be weapons there, because if it is a corporate owned, it's not the same rules, it's private property in essence, so it's not the same laws and rules as a city. So maybe they will be weapon free, so perhaps families will not be afraid to have their children go to school. Maybe the resources will be better. Maybe there will be several other amenities and ways to work and participate in community. So they will create entire cities, and there will be invitations and screenings for those that want to live there. If it sounds like too big an adventure, you can already imagine that some of these large corporations already have, what they call campuses. So they already have these very huge campuses where they have daycare and medical facilities and playgrounds and dormitories for people who are too tired to go home or working on big projects. So it's not that big a leap to see that there are going to be these large, smallish to large city experiments. And who knows, you may want to live in one of these as well. All of this is going to, as you imagine, change the architecture of things. If we're talking about one of these new cities, it might make sense that they would have a different currency in that. So that would be an opportunity to try out some of these other ideas as well. So some of these other ideas that we're talking about dovetail one with the other. So there's something to start out with. I said that we would spend about an hour or so together, so I don't want to go too much over that today. I do want you to write to me and tell me if you enjoyed today and if you found it worthwhile, and if you'd like to do it again, then I will plan on other resources and ways to do that. And you can be on my mailing list to find out more. You can check back here on Facebook if that's one of the ways that you like to express yourself. I'm happy to find you here as well. And I really just wanted to be on the same page with you, on the same day with you. And just to answer a few final questions, can I channel Gaia still? Do I? Will I? Yes, I can. And it's as sweet and deep and moving a connection as it was way back in the beginning. So that has been restored, and I'm so happy about that. And at the same time, I feel that we have Gaia's blessing to move into many other ways of embodied wisdom. We need to recreate our world, and doing so will make the earth better, will make Gaia better, will animate great forces, may have an impact on other species, on the other kingdoms, if we can improve our own standing, our own well-being, our own inner wisdom, and experience that, exteriorize that in so many other ways, then so much the better. And I like expressing that as well. And in some ways, I'd like to ask your blessing and your permission to move forward in these ways that that touch my heart, in the same way that I received your blessing and permission so many years ago when I began to channel Gaia and wondered, who will believe this? Who will feel this great thing that I feel other than me? I want your blessing and your permission to explore these other avenues of expression, to bring them to you, to share them with you, to teach them to you if you're interested in them. And at the same time, I want to continue to honor what brought us together in the beginning, which is our love for each other and our love for the planet, for this earth, for this life, and all that we can do to benefit and share that as well. So a last reminder that I'm going to be in San Diego to do my first seminar for coming back the weekend of March 3rd and 4th. I'm not going to be traveling as I was before. I do dearly miss seeing you in person, but one of the hardest things for me always has been the airplane travel and time differences and hotels rather than home. So I will travel a few times a year where I can, when it really makes sense, when I can really make those heart connections with you. And so if you see that I'm going to be someplace nearby, I hope you can come and not say I'll catch her next time, because I'm not sure when I'm going to go and when I'm going to come back. And at the same time, I can promise you that I will be here online, that I'm going to work on and create many different ways for us to be together and to communicate with one another, perhaps study together, share together, and be the community of loving, expansive, awakening beings that we are. So this has been a fun new experience, and let's bring it to a close. My Buddhist teachers taught me to always end by dedicating the work of everything that we do. So I'd like to dedicate this time to you, to the love I hold for you, to your awakening, to your natural processes, to your health and well-being, to your personal discoveries and the way that you share yourself in the world. All the love that I hold for you, this is for you. And until I see you again soon. Thanks so much for being with me, and I will see you again soon. Bye.